on Thursday during my work day, in the middle of my workday on my way to lunch, I was instructed by a teacher to no longer work with a student and some other students that I had been building relationships with since the beginning of the school year. So this was this past Thursday on September 16th. And I was shocked, and this was specifically because I am unvaccinated. So other unvaccinated staff were being told by the Newberg School District administration leads that we could not work with students unless we were 6 feet apart, starting right away, starting Thursday afternoon. And so I was on my way to lunch. I took my lunch and I processed this, and I was thinking that this is segregation. So on Friday, September 17th, I showed up to school and I put on some dark makeup on the parts that were showing my skin, including my hands. And I came in hopes to represent Rosa Parks, who I admire for standing up during her time when segregation was taking place. And I felt like I and others who are unvaccinated were starting to experience segregation. And so when I came to school to work that day, I encountered a couple of staff members, and one was the school counselor, who was very comfortable to not fully hearing me and marching over to the principal's office to talk to him. A couple minutes later, I was doing my responsibilities in the hallway and encountered the principal, and he immediately said that I needed to go to HR. I went to HR and I had a meeting with the HR director. The HR director and I discussed a couple of things, and I included that yes, I had put on some darker makeup to make a point that I am feeling segregated as an unvaccinated person in this school district with how these demands are being placed on us, with power being implemented in an unhealthy way. And I was told that I would be placed on leave immediately that day.
Was it because of what you were wearing, or was it because of the vaccination status and your stance on that?
I don't recall them specifically telling me why I was being put on a leave of absence. I later found out that an investigation was being made. I'm trying to think what else. Okay, so yesterday, Monday, there was some media coverage where the superintendent of the Newberg School District spoke. And I heard what he had to say. And after hearing what he had to say, two things come to mind. That he was told lies and doesn't have the whole story, or that he was told lies and he is choosing to believe those lies and spreading them to the community. This is not a safe environment for these students to be hearing these lies. And I want to also point out that on Thursday, when it was demanded of the unvaccinated staff to no longer work with certain students and to be 6 feet away from whatever students we were going to be working with, there was no thoughtful, planned out method of how we were going to handle the rest of the school day. It was kind of chaotic with lots of uncertainty, and the students' interests were not being focused on.
So let's scoot back a second here. Mm-hmm. You talked about some lies and inaccurate things that were being said by the superintendent and other people there in the media and maybe even behind the scenes. What exactly were they saying that that you're saying was untrue?
What I heard the superintendent say that was untrue to me were labels that were put onto me. And the lies that were communicated from the HR director were what was coming out of the superintendent, because that was not coming from me. And I met with the HR director, who I'm sure has had communication with the superintendent.
So how did it make you feel watching that press conference yesterday?
I watched the press conference and I tried to understand the perspective of the superintendent. And though this could be misunderstood, I want to clarify what my intention was, and I am advocating for vaccinated or non-vaccinated people to be treated fairly and equally without segregation. When I did the expression of Rosa Parks on Friday, that was Constitution Day.
And is that why you were dressing up as her?
The timing was just in a line of the day after I experienced segregation personally and was seeing that permeating in our school and throughout our school district and trickling down into the students who were not getting the services that they needed at that time.
So are you concerned that because they're, to use your terminology, segregating certain teachers and instructors from the students, are you concerned that the students are going to be harmed in the long run from all of this?
I have observed that the students were having these transitions on Thursday, September 16th, that they were not expecting. They are special education students. They need to have certain accommodations made for them, and they're used to working with certain staff members. Things were changing rapidly, and there was no thought out plan with how this was going to be implemented on Thursday afternoon after the demand was made. This, I'm sure, affected students emotionally at the very least.
So what were your duties? What was your role at the school, and how, since it sounds like you were working with special education students, what was your role? How did you work with them? How did that differ from working with normal students?
So my role in working at this school in special education included working one-on-one with students mainly, and I worked with a variety of students, but I was specifically working with one particular student in the afternoons, in which I was enjoying and learning how to interact with this student. We were learning from each other and we were making progress. And so those specifics, I feel that would not be a good idea for me to share that are related to the student's learning plan, but they include accommodations for this student that a regular education student wouldn't necessarily have, that requires more one-on-one attention.
Okay. So if you're all right, we can go into specific things I had here. This is Mabel Rush Elementary, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to get some shots of the school after this.
Sure.
Was it your intention to send any sort of message of racism or anything like that?
It was not my intention at all whatsoever to send a message of racism, but the exact opposite, which was to uplift or give focus to someone that I admire from history, Rosa Parks, who did an amazing thing, and I chose to express that on Constitution Day, which happened to be the day after I personally experienced segregation for being an unvaccinated staff member.
Do you think any of the students were offended by this?
I have no idea if any of the students were offended by this. I was not trying to interact with the students. I was simply making a peaceful visual of representing someone that I admired.
And I had heard through some of the news reports that they had escorted you out even before the students even showed up, and that no students even saw you.
This transpired on Friday morning, September 17th, when I had arrived at the school and I had just started handing out breakfast to the students. So I think most of the students at least had arrived at school, and I had helped with the breakfast, and then I was going into the hallway after my encounter with the school counselor. And soon after that, a couple minutes, I was escorted to the front office to go to HR.
This might be a tricky one here, and I understand if you don't want to answer it here, but do you understand why people are upset about this and why others may feel offended?
I am having a little bit of a hard time understanding why some people are so offended when they don't have the whole story, because it was not my intention to be offensive, but to uplift a person that I admire.
So we can switch gears a little bit here and talk about the vaccines if you want.
Okay.
Why are you refusing the vaccine?
I personally have filed an exemption that is an exemption, not just an exception, for the COVID vaccine for many reasons. And that process is actually still in the works. There has not been an approval or disapproval communicated to my communication advocate yet regarding that status for me. We all know that people who are vaccinated or unvaccinated are susceptible to getting the COVID-19 virus and any of its variants.
So how does it make you feel when they tell you that they're requiring vaccines as part of your employment?
When I hear that there's a vaccine mandate and vaccines are required for me to be employed at the Newberg School District, which is coming from the state, I do what I can to turn in my exemption and go from there.
Okay, but how does it make you? How does it make you feel though when they're requiring it?
When the Newberg School District is requiring a vaccine, I feel as if I'm being controlled and I don't have a choice. I don't have medical freedom choices.
And what are other teachers and students saying about the vaccine?
I don't have a comment for that.
Okay. We already talked about the press conference there. We talked a little bit about your bosses, but how do you feel? How does it make you feel when you see and read all of the things being said about you by the media?
When I see some of the things that are being presented on the media, I feel that there wasn't an opportunity for me to be fully heard. And that creates certain perspectives, that creates lies, that creates chaos. And that's not what my intention was from the beginning with all of this.
Do you think the way they are treating you sort of proves your point?
I believe that the way that I am being treated up to this point from what transpired on Thursday, September 16th until now is revealing some of the character of certain people.
Okay. Do you have any regrets about any of this?
I do not have any regrets.
So if you had to do it all over again, you'd do it all over again?
I would do it again as far as lifting up someone that I admire and was seen for a little while when I am not being heard, so that I can also advocate for others who are being segregated during this time of the non-vaccinated and the vaccinated.
Anything else you'd like to add?
I'd just like to point out that my expression on Friday, September 17th happened on Constitution Day. And again, that non-vaccinated and vaccinated people are all susceptible to getting the COVID-19 virus along with any of its variants.
And your last name is Pefferle?
Yes.
All right.
Pefferle.
Pefferle.
Yeah.
Okay.